I will talk to you about the extraterrestrials, the Third World War, and the warnings about the dangers of nuclear power. Several contactees and seers around the world received messages on this topic. In the writing Man and the Cross, Eugenio Siragusa talked about the planet Mallon that existed between Jupiter and Mars. It exploded precisely because its inhabitants had used the energies deriving from the radioactive elements. On September 18, 1961, he said, "Atomic energy, a hidden monster of unheard of destructive violence, is once again attempting to take a threatening role in the already old history of our solar system. Once again, man endangers the existence of a world and all that contains with such unprecedented lightness." Then in 1962, he met with two authoritative exponents of the planetary confederations on the slopes of Etna. They gave him a decisive message of universal character for the survival of the human beings and the dangers of nuclear weapons. He sent it to all the heads of states of the world, including John Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev. The painful events that humanity is going through today are nothing more than the fruits of continuous disobedience to the wishes of God. Few have put to good use the contents of the heavenly messages. They are the quality desalvageable to be saved. No one can say I didn't know before the divine judgment on all human beings. Message to the powerful of the earth. Scientists, men of government, we must warn you that if you continue to implement the crazy plans you have set for nuclear testing, nothing can be done to prevent this world of yours from suffering a heavy blow of a disastrous and deadly nature. If we watch over your destiny, is because we have nurtured and nourished great confidence in your future. Instead, by doing so, you are seriously impeding our constructive intentions. If you form a firm union among all the peoples of the earth and realize the complete destruction of all the lethal weapons, we will grant you all the knowledge and science that will cause all humanity a serene life, happiness, freedom, and infinite prosperity. You could be truly free and master the universe and its eternal beauty. Why give up so much peace and happiness? Why destroy yourself so terribly at all cost, denying in a flash your historic evolutionary effort? If you, rulers and men of science, choose the worst, we would bring out from the irreparable disaster only those who have known and understood us and who have loved their neighbors as themselves. So be careful and responsible if you want to survive. Do not let the heavenly forgiveness given to you by Jesus Christ become useless by the grace of the Creator Father. In faith, Eugenio Siragusa, Mount Manfred, Etna, 30 of April 1962. It's the aliens that made it possible for the Cold War between the United States and Russia not to turn into a nuclear war, said Edgar Mitchell, former pilot of the historic Apollo 14 mission. The thesis of the 6 men who set foot on the moon may seem bizarre, like science fiction films. Yet Mitchell told the Mirror, extraterrestrials wanted to know what our military capabilities were. And I am sure they were trying to stop the war and help us live in peace. The astronaut tells that some soldiers saw strange objects flying over the American missile bases and the NASA White Sand Base in New Mexico, where the first atomic experiment was carried out in 1945. In Fatima, Our Lady asked to consecrate Russia to her Immaculate Heart. I will come to ask for the consecration of Russia. If they grant my request, Russia will be converted and there will be peace. Otherwise, it will spread its errors throughout the world, causing wars and persecutions of the Church. Good people will suffer martyrdom. The Holy Father will have much to suffer. Many nations will be annihilated. But in the end, the Immaculate Heart will triumph. The Holy Father will consecrate Russia to me, which will be converted, and a certain period of peace will be granted to the world. Several popes have already consecrated the world to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, but some believe that these world consecrations do not equate to a specific Russian consecration. They were accomplished repeatedly as the conditions laid down by Our Lady never met. From time to time, the world, humanity, all the children of the Church were consecrated. Moreover, the participation of all the bishops was always far from being obtained. After the act of March 25, 1984, Sister Lucy did not hesitate to reconfirm that Our Lady's request had not been met. There was no participation of all the bishops and no mention of Russia. With the beginning of the war between Russia and Ukraine, the Pope has announced a new ceremony that will take place on Friday, March 25, in St. Peter's Basilica. For 8 years, the democratic world has witnessed the bombing of Donbass. At the same time, for all these 8 years, NATO continues its endless process of encirclement of Russia. Ukrainian politicians, not embarrassed, spoke of terrorist attacks on the territory of Russia and strangled Crimea with a block of water, energy, and transport. They threatened to spread NATO, and they did. And Russia was strangled with sanctions. But on February 24, 2022, the Russian bear woke up. Several seers around the world receive heavenly messages that talk about this awakening of the Russian bear. Trevignano Romano, February 2022. Children, the West will start a war against Russia and China. These events must unite you and not isolate you, because only this way you will be stronger. Carbonia, November 2015. The nation of the United States of America is close to a tremendous economic disaster. Its finances are about to get lost. Poverty will be immense and the enemy will march on his head. Russia is advancing undisturbed towards the Third World War. Fatima is at its completion. Many of those messages coincide with the most accurate geopolitical forecast, like the partnership between Russia, China, and Iran. Anguilla, December 2007. The day will come when the furious dragon, China, will fire on the bear's nest, Russia, and my poor children will experience great suffering. March 2009, the day will come when the fierce bear, Russia, will join the devouring lion, Iran. The fury of the animals will fall on the church, and my poor consecrated children will carry a heavy cross. And back in December 2000, soon you will see peace reign over the earth. You will see new heavens and new lands. The Lord will reign in all hearts, and there will be no more wars. The enemy countries will be reconciled. Russia will be the great example of faith for all humanity. It will be the country that will most honor the name of Jesus. But Russia's positions towards the West is reflected in the words of Alexander Dugin, a Russian philosopher and political scientist who has close ties with the Kremlin. considered Putin's ideologue and described as his advisor and inspirer, he said about Ukraine. This is not a war with Ukraine, it's a confrontation with globalism at all levels, geopolitical and ideological. Russia rejects everything of globalism, unipolarity, Atlantism, liberalism, anti-tradition, technocracy and great reset. All European leaders are part of the Atlanticist liberal elite, and we are at war with it. Russia is creating a global resistance camp. A great expert on the region, Giulietto Chiesa, Italian ambassador to Moscow and journalist, prophesied in 2015 about the war in Ukraine. That is what he said. I think we are on the eve of the war, a great war, and the probability this will happen is much higher than that of avoiding it. The crisis in Ukraine is not just a crisis in Ukraine, it's the beginning of the offensive of the United States of America and Europe against Russia. Ukraine was used as a stick to hit Russia. In 2016, he wrote Putinphobia, prophetizing not just the war, but the fact that Vladimir Putin, Russia's strong president, would have become the new number one enemy. Dusting off the slogans of the Cold War, they are back to being the evil empire. And Putin is a monster to feed to the masses, suitably portrayed as a psychopathic tyrant, responsible for massacres, or cynical weaver of imperialistic plots. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and more videos will come on this same channel.